r/askreddit. Which fictional death hit you the hardest? Sam the onion picker in holes. My man just wanted that lady to be his wife so they could live together in onion and peach filled bliss, and goddammit he wanted it too. Still makes me sad to this day. I can fix that. Holes is a much better book than it is given credit for, methinks. 99. A deformed clone trooper who couldn't serve in the Clone Wars and just worked as a janitor instead. When he sacrificed himself, that hit me. I'm a soldier, just like you. Him or fives. I read Where the Red Fern Grows as a teen. When the dog Old Dan died after saving Billy from a mountain lion dart followed by the other dog Little Ann of a broken heart. I was inconsolable. We read that book in school. Teacher had to have us read that chapter because she couldn't do it. It had been part of the school book list like forever. She had to have read that book like 20 times and still couldn't hold it together. Edit. Seems like this is a nationwide thing. Unless everyone here went to taught at Jim Bridger Elementary circa 1996. Brendan Fraser in Scrubs. Where do you think we are? Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Comma, where do you think we are? And my heart turns to Fuggy Mash. Seriously, John C. McGinley deserves so much recognition for how he sold those scenes. Seeing such a strong character implode emotionally like that is gut-wrenching. Really, he's the best part of that show and I'm surprised he hasn't gotten more dramatic work. I think his finest scene was the end of the episode where the 3 transplant patients end up dying from a rabies infection. Dr. Cox tries and fails to revive one patient with a defibrillator. Carla just looks on once she realizes it's hopeless and she just looks so sad and concerned and scared. Perry finally gives up and lashes out, knocking over the cart and the equipment screaming God, 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 and it makes me cry every time. More hardcore raw emotional response than the Ben episodes for me. The saddest part is how Dr. Cox handles it. You're not used to seeing him vulnerable. Remus Lupin, he just had a sad life and he died right after life seemed to be looking up for him. Edit. Wow, this is my most upvoted comment on this new account and the most upvoted one I've ever had, thank you. And then his kid became an orphan. It was horrible, but in retrospect I think Sirius was worse. Remus was the victim of stigma and poverty, but he found true love and had a family. The injustice done to Sirius meant he never ever got even relatively normal human relationships. He lived falsely imprisoned, and then trapped in hiding, reviled for something he didn't do, and was killed in a mere skirmish. He never got to sleep with a wife by his side. He never got justice. I can't imagine the depth of his loneliness. Edit. That's not to dismiss Remus' struggles. They both had terribly shitty lives. I was really sad about Fred Weasley. The fact he was a twin made it worse. I will say, when I read the books, the only death that made me cry was Sirius. That one was rough. And Hedwig. I lost my first dog right around the time I was reading it. It helped a little bit knowing my hero was going through the same thing I was, losing a best friend. Out of all the HP related deaths, his hit me hardest, too, for the same reason. They weren't just twins, they did everything together. I always wondered how George managed afterwards. I agree, but I sobbed like a baby when Dumbledore died as well. He needs to be mentioned, too. Not technically a death, but when Wally's memory banks got fried at the end, I felt that in my soul. Thankfully Pixar would never leave us on a note like that, but damn. That little robot moved me so much. I adamantly maintain that Wall-E is the best movie ever made. Wash and Serenity. I am a leaf on the wind. The hardest thing about that one is that it's all so sudden. He's dead before you even realize what just happened, and suddenly they have to go further cause the Reavers are coming. Mal has to drag Zoe away cause she's in total disbelief and trying to get Wash out of the chair. When I was a small child, my father invented stories about a truck that worked hard and drove challenging roads all over the world. Then, he ran out of stories, and sent the truck to the junkyard. Made me very sad as a small child who loved trucks. At age 66, makes me sad to remember. Could make a great children's book show. Hank from Breaking Bad. Dude started the series as a stereotypical meathead that I thought I was gonna hate, but had one of the biggest character arcs besides Walt and Jesse. By the end I was rooting pretty hard for him. Imagine finding out someone close to you was a major drug lord if you were a D agent Tyrol. That would have to be awful and embarrassing. Edit. Thanks for the gold whoever did it. He was mid-speech when it happened too. That doesn't happen to the good guys. Jesus. His scene figuring out it was Walt who was behind it all, on the toilet, and then driving away to have a heart attack, or panic attack, and his confrontation with Walt in the garage. Really amazing acting from Dean Norris. I want to see more with him. I've seen some of his old stuff but I feel like he shines a lot more as one of the mains or secondary mains. He was hilarious in Little Miss Sunshine though. Well, not going to spoil it, but if you've seen Bridge to Terabithia, you know what I'm referring to. The trailers made it seem like a fun fantasy movie but what we got was a depressing pile of depressing. That movie ruined unexpecting childhood me and I didn't like it. Boromir from Lotta. They took the little ones. Doesn't even consider asking for help. It seems like he was hoping Aragorn would just run off right then to rescue Merry and Pippin. He more than redeemed himself. You hardly notice but since they leave Rivendell he and Merry and Pippin obviously have a real close friendship. He is teaching them how to fight and they're roughhousing around after they first leave. He is the one helping them in the snows of the mountain pass and is talking about going back because going on will be the death of the hobbits. He grabs both of them and jumps the gap in the stairs when running from the Balrog. He asks for a moment for them for pity's sake after Gandalf dies and it's when they are in the most trouble he literally comes out of nowhere to sacrifice himself trying to save them for the best scene in the first movie. God, Jackson did such a great job with the LOTR trilogy. So much depth and character packed so wonderfully into the movies. Edit. And I just realized that it was Pippin that offered himself to Denethor almost as a tribute or attempt to pay back the debt he felt he owed to Boromir. Pippin, who was by far the most selfish and childish of the hobbits, volunteered himself to Boromir's father to apologize for Boromir's death, protecting him. Just realized that speaks volumes about how Pippin obviously felt about Boromir, since that isn't something you do for just anyone, especially if you're a fool of a took. And that action allowed him to alert Gandalf at the necessary time and save Faramir, almost like he paid Boromir back for saving his life by saving Boromir's brother's life. I hadn't thought about any of this until today, simply reading Boromir from Lotta. Sean Bean is great at dying. Sean Bean has died on screen an eye-watering 25 times. He has been flung from a satellite dish in Goldeneye, bombarded with arrows in The Lord of the Rings and beheaded in Game of Thrones. He has perished so many times that his appearance in a drama is invariably a walking spoiler alert. Boromir's arc was great because he was the hero of Gondor and the point of his story was to show that even the best of men could fall to the ring, but he redeemed himself in the end. Lieutenant Colonel Moss Hughes. Edit. Thanks for the silver, kind stranger. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. You all can stop correcting the rank. I get it, I got it wrong. Brigadier General. Edit. Obligatory thank you for the silver. Twice. Edit 2. Thrice. His daughter saying he needs to get up and go to work. It has me crying right now. And when Nina and Alexander became a chimera. Edit. Thank you for the silver, kind stranger. It's a bad day for rain. Dog from Futurama. We'll meet again. Don't know where. Don't know when. That was heartbreaking. The last scene just cycled through the seasons, years just waiting for his master. Send me out, with a bang, Sergeant Avery Johnson. For all you greenhorns who wanted to see Covenant up close, today is your lucky day. Dear humanity, we regret being alien bastards, we regret coming to Earth, and we most definitely regret that the Corps just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet. Mordin Solus in Mass Effect 3. Had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong. The very model of a scientist Solarian. Would have liked to run tests on the seashells. Ned Stark. You watch the entire first season of GOT thinking he will be the main character and then he gets his damn head chopped off. It shocked me. Believing that Sean Bean would survive a series was your first mistake. How has no one mentioned Bubba from Forrest Gump? You're lying if you say you didn't cry. I wanna go home. The scene with Forrest talking to Bubba's grave is heartbreaking. Bing Bong from Inside Out. IDK what was up with that movie, but that was the first time I nearly cried while watching a movie. Lion King. Shrug Red Dog. Doesn't affect me a goddamn children's movie that I didn't even watch. All of fucking heartbreaks. The death of Bing Bong was the death of childhood innocence, sacrificed to save a child's mental health and, as a result, the mental health of the developing adult. Take her to the moon for me. Goddamn, Bing Bong gets me every time. The dog and I am legend. Edit. Thanks to the kind redditor for correcting my mislabeled title. My husband pointed out that neither of us gave a damn that almost every single human died, but were devastated by the death of that dog. Has to be the Jewish soldier from Saving Private Ryan when he gets stabbed in chest. The feeling of rage when the guy on the stairs just freezes and does nothing. The utter helplessness you feel for the Jewish guy and the hate you feel for the German soldier they freed earlier in the film. Even just typing it makes the feelings come back. Really powerful scene. Also at the start when the Americans shot the two guys with their hands up. They were Czechoslovakian conscripts. Atrius or Sartax. A detail not in the movie from the book is that Artax actually speaks and begs to be left to die in it. The wife in Up. Ellie. Noble 6 in Halo Reach. I never really experienced death of my characters before, so it really stuck with me, fighting to the very bitter end and just having to watch him die. All alone. Knowing the lore of previous Halo stuff and his particular Spartan project. 6 didn't even die with his friends. He went out solo in a glorious but futile display of defiance. Made me sick to my stomach at the time. Spartans never die. Objective: survive. Most of the deaths of Nobel team in Halo Reach were pretty bad. Kat's was so sudden and unexpected. George where he sacrifices himself to blow up the Corvette after pushing you out. Him thinking he saved the planet, but as you're falling through the atmosphere several more arrive showing it was for more or less nothing. Those two were particularly bad for me. It was really rough playing through that, wondering if you missed something, trying your hardest to outlast the storm. Then the visor starts to crack and you just feel helpless. Really unique experience in gaming. See more butts. Goddamn you, Futurama. Why you gotta make me feel the feels? Oh god yes. And the little montage they had of him waiting for Fry. Cedric Diggory. Harry Potter books 1-3 were all sunshine and rainbows, but the 4th is where it started to get dark. My 12-year-old self was also not expecting his death because it happened so quickly, and he was only a student. I had to ride my bike to the park to process his death. And this was while I never particularly rooted, Team Harry, for his character. When I was a kid I hated Cedric's braggy, pompous ass father. When he cried over his son's body it destroyed me. The thing I love about the HP books is the books matured with the readers. The first was read to me when I was like 9. I read the last book when I was 18. The first was a whimsical, magical tale of friendship and fighting evil. The last was a brutal, gritty end to a fucking war that Voldemort started. Logan. I can't believe someone hasn't commented it yet. That whole movie was just a series of blows to the ribs, man. Seeing how old and frail Logan has become, watching Xavier deteriorate more and more, that family that helped them getting massacred, I just couldn't deal. Absolutely didn't help that Wolverine is one of my favorite heroes. LT Colonel Henry Blake. Edit. Thank you for the silver and gold. The realization what was happening with the lady who had the noisy chicken in the finale also hit me hard. Also the episode with the dreams nightmares. Especially when the medical professor asks Hawkeye for his arm and asks him how to reattach it. When he can't answer he takes both his arm and throws it into a pond full of limbs. Then an armless Hawkeye is in a boat floating through the limbs toward a dying kid and who he obviously can't help. That was a rough episode. MASH is a phenomenal TV show. Yondu's death in Guardians and the Galaxy Volume 2. He was my favorite character of all time in any movie. It hit me RLY hard. Edit. I shouldn't have posted this, because now I'm watching it. Edit too. Thanks for silver. He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy. Mary Poppins y'all. Comma. Arthur Morgan. When you get that high on a cutscene with Sister Calderon in the train station and he says I'm afraid, I've never felt more devastated playing a video game. Arthur Morgan's horse. Hodder. This is weird, but Ygritte from GOT. When she said we should have stayed in that cave, it really hit home. My GF at the time and I were on a break and going through a bunch of stuff, and that episode made me want to go back to our little cave one last time. Spike in Cowboy Bebop. Holy shit. I'm gonna carry that weight. Edit. I'm so sorry guys. I'm such an asshole for not using spoiler tags. Sirius Black. Charlotte in Charlotte's Web. It's been 40 years and I still can't even think about it without getting choked up. Opie in Sons of Anarchy. Rob Stark. Sincere thanks to you all who pointed out my spelling error. I went cold during the Red Wedding. It was supposed to be a heartwarming moment when Arya would meet her family after so long. Instead she had to be dragged away to safety by the Hound while she was wailing. In a lot of ways the Red Wedding was not as bad in the books, because his pregnant wife was not there to get stabbed repeatedly in the stomach. But at the same time it was much more tragic, because the whole event was told through his mother's perspective. I think any death where the actor died in real life because the actors aren't just saying goodbye to the character but the actor as well, and that emotion really comes through and makes it really hard to watch. Think the main example of this is Finn from Glee. That episode was so hard to watch. I didn't expect to feel so emotional at the end of Iroh's part of that episode of Atla where they revealed that his first voice actor had passed. The way they did it was so respectful, and beautiful too, with him mourning his son. I hope I'm not misremembering, but doesn't the cast just straight break down from John Ritter's death on 8 Simple Rules? I'm not done with part 3, stop spoiling. I know it's a meme, but I honestly cried when that happened. Dobby. He died as he lived. 3. Yondu's death from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy. As a kid it was definitely Mufasa. That part of the film haunted me for months. Now Yondu's death makes me bawl, Romanoff's makes my heart break, and Danny's death in Pearl Harbor is a very poignant one for me. Rita in Dexter was a bad one. Shmuel from The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Both of them for me. They just don't realize they're dying. And they hold hands and then they're just gone. Hard, JT York from the Degrassi series. I've outgrown the series and the situations, but for some reason if I ever do a rewatch or feel like crying, his death episode knocks me down. Harder Carmina from Gurren Lagann. It's a shock in multiple ways and the show never lets you forget about him. For good reason. Hardest Lee Everett from Telltale Walking Dead. I'm not even a Walking Dead fan and I only picked the game up because the first episode was free. Hooked instantly and fell in love with him and Clementine. The ending of episode 4 made me actually shout when it happened. Still gets me. Honestly it's easy for me. Bob's death in Stranger Things. He was so cool. And Hopper, though he may not actually be dead. Ginger in Black Beauty. Granny Weatherwax from Terry Pratchett's Discworld. It was the last novel and released just after his death. Granny dying mirrored that Terry was in fact gone too. Such a magnificent author. Charlie Lost. Not Penny's boat. Every thread that asks this sort of question gets the same answer from me. Leslie from Bridge to Terabithia. Tadashi, Big Hero 6. Disney, okay but what if we make this kid a double orphan? Rue from Hunger Games. For me it was Prim. I kinda knew Rue was gonna die, but Prim was out of nowhere. Still really sad with Rue though. Edit. Okay, apparently a lot of you didn't like Prim's death. If you have a younger sibling, you might understand how horrible it would be, even if you don't get along. And I think it's really sad even if the entire point was to save Prim. Makes it all more tragic. Plus it makes Katniss hate Coin on a personal level, which may have been just what she needed to kill her. Iron Man and Endgame. That and Thor getting to see his mom again, both hit like a bus. The death of Optimus Prime in the 1980s Transformers movie. Groot's death in Guardians of the Galaxy made me cry while eating Doritos on my bedroom floor. Naruto Shippuden when Jiraiya Sensei died. I forever remember his little feet clap in the intro of that season. Edit. My first silver thank you. Any deaths in the Clone Wars series? Satine, Domino Squad, Wexer, comma. Fives gets me the most. Oh my god, so many I don't even know. but these are probably the top 2, though I think Iron Man and Black Widow are a close third. Alien Up. I recently watched it with my boyfriend and I was crying so hard we had to stop the film for about 10 minutes before we carried on. My boyfriend also got me to watch all the Marvel films because I've never seen them and he wanted me to be caught up for Endgame so we could watch it together. When we got to Infinity War I cried when Spider-Man got dusted and then cried about it again about 10 minutes after the film ended. My boyfriend went to make me a hot chocolate and our friend walked past his room. We were at uni, while the door was open and unfortunately heard me sobbing on my boyfriend's bed, so unfortunately more than one person got to witness my emotional overreaction to a fictional event that day. Spark. Saw it in the theater. Didn't know it was coming. No internet spoilers back then lol. Sarah from The Last of Us. Joel's reaction gets me every time. Qui-Gon Jinn from Star Wars The Phantom Menace. I was about 5 years old when I first watched that movie. He was my favorite character in the movie and it hit me really hard when he died. Koro Sensei's death. Sweets from Bones. Did not see that coming. Right, Sarah Lynn? Sarah Lynn? Edit. Oh, wow. My first awards. Thank you kind strangers. Sniper in Last Battle from Save Private Ryan. Dr. Mark Green ER. John Wick's dog. Goose from Top Gun. Peter Parker in Infinity War. The dog from Molly and Me. Joyce Summers. Newt from Maze Runner series. Lenny from Of Mice and Men. The 10th Doctor. Our Doctor Who. Kaki Oinariki. Mary Watson from Sherlock Holmes. I couldn't believe they really killed her. I was waiting for a plot twist that would bring her back, but that twist never came. I was so upset and couldn't even talk to my friends about it because they hadn't watched it yet.